Hello again, it's Chris Mackay, the camera guy, and I'm here to tell you about another of my cameras. This particular camera is a German camera and a beautifully made camera, but I think, it came out at the wrong time and it was the wrong design, and it sort of heralded what was going to happen to the German camera industry at large, not entirely. Some parts of it survived very well, Leica, but they did go through some changes of ownership. But anyway, and this is the German camera industry just before the Japanese onslaught. I'll talk about the camera first and explain. Okay, here it is. It's an Agfa Ambiflex. It's a single lens reflex camera. Beautifully made, has interchangeable lenses. I have three lenses. There were, I think, four: a 35, a 50, which I've got on here, a 90, and there was a 135 which I don't have. The camera also came with a interchangeable pentaprism. You could get a waist level finder. I don't have that either. It has a selenium cell meter, and this is pretty good, It's when you adjust the shutter or speed or the f-stop, there's a little indicator here, and it moves, and it's connected, so it's sort of automatic. Well, not really, but I mean, it's like what am I trying to say? So when you adjust the aperture or the f-stop, the needle moves. And so it's not a case of seeing the indication and having to then set it. It's already set as you adjust this, so the needle's in the middle. You've got the correct exposure. I checked this meter with my trusty Gusson Luna 6, which I know is very accurate, and this is off by about a stop, which since this camera was made in 1960 and we're now in 2024, that makes it what? 60 plus 40, 64 years old. So one stop off, I think we can forgive it. All right, so it's got a nice bright viewfinder, and advance the film, take a picture. What was wrong with it then? Well, I think the thing that's wrong with it was probably what Agfa thought was this great advantage. It has leaf shutter built into the camera behind the camera lenses. The lenses fit on in front of the shutter. Why is that not good? Well, it's sort of okay if you're using moderately wide angle to long lenses, that's fine. But if you want a really wide angle lens that's going to sit right back in the body, that's going to cause some problems. So there won't be enough space. The lens is going to foul the mirror as the mirror goes up. So, well, it won't go up because the lens is going to stop it doing that. So that, I think, was the problem. Why then did the Germans put a leaf shutter on it? They did know about, they did know about focal plane shutters. I think it was for the flash sync. You can synchronize flash at any speed with a leaf shutter. The shutter opens, the flash goes off when it's fully open, and then it closes. With a focal plane shutter, the blind goes across. The flash has to go off when the blind is already there before the other side of the blind starts to close. So it limits your flash speed. Most of the focal plane shutters, at that time, the flash speed would be a 30th of a second. I think occasionally there might be a 60th. But then the Japanese came out, and the company Copal came out with what was called the Copal Square shutter, and instead of that going across the long way, that goes down the short way. That means it's got less time to travel. You can have a faster shutter speed that you can synchronize with flash. The Copal Square shutter synchronized flash at 125th of a second. This synchronizes flash at a 300th, which is probably a 250th if you, yeah, I think they just put 300 on there. It goes up one stop from 125, and 2 times 125 is 250, and you just round it off to 300 because that sounds much better. So I think there's only one stop difference, and with a camera with a focal plane shutter, you can put any lens on it. You know, you can have very wide angle lenses, 20mm lenses, much wider than that later on. So I think that was the problem. The other thing is, it's a bit slow to, you know, here's the film advance, it's down in there, you've sort of got to hunt for it. And it's a bit, you know, a bit clunky. The Japanese cameras were much faster. You know, if you're in a big hurry to take pictures. If you're not in a hurry, which I'm not usually, then this is fine. But if you were a news photographer and you didn't yet have the motor drive and you're trying to get things quickly, this probably is going to be a bit slow. Beautiful camera, beautifully made. I got it for a pretty good price. I paid £85 for it in a shop in Bradford, Yorkshire, and I got the 3 lenses, the 50, I got the 35, which is called the Colour Ambion. It also came with the boxes, and the lenses all came in nice little protective, what would you call that, domes, and there's silica gel in the bottom there, so we shouldn't have any trouble with fungus, even after 64 years. And here's the 90mm. That was the standard kit, wasn't it? 35, 50 and 90 for portraits. And beautiful stuff, beautiful lenses, take really sharp pictures, very nice. But the camera failed in the marketplace. It was expensive, and it had the fatal flaw. Just want to tell a little bit of a story about Japan and the psychology of the Japanese, because after the war, you know, the Japanese were sort of famous for making pretty cheap stuff. They were just trying to recover from the war, which had been horrendous for them. But then they started to improve everything, and we in the West sort of complain that the Japanese just copy. They don't invent anything, they just copy us. Well, in the Japanese way of doing things, if you, for instance, want to learn martial arts and you go to your teacher, your sensei, whom you treat with great respect, we bow. The idea is that the sensei teaches you and you copy the sensei. He's the one who knows. You copy him. Your aim is to be as good as the sensei. When you are as good as the sensei, your aim is to improve, to be better than the sensei. I'm going to tell you a story, and it's about the car industry. So after the war, 2 English companies, Austin and Hillman, both set up factories in Japan, and initially they were sending what's called a KCD, completely knocked down. You know, the whole car's in a crate, in a box, and it goes. And in Japan they took the thing out of the box and screwed it all together, and there you are. You've got an Austin Devon, I think it was an Austin A40, and a Hillman Minx. The roads were very bad in Japan at that time, and hardly anybody had any cars. And strangely, the representative for Hillman and the representative for Austin, driving to their respective work, passed each other in their cars, waved to each other. But they both started sending back similar stories. The one I have is from the Hillman representative, and he wrote back to the Hillman factory in the Midlands in England, saying the Japanese are building a better Hillman Minx than we are doing in England. And the people in England said impossible. But he was right, because the thing in Japan is everybody, the people in the factory are involved in this. So if you see something and you think it could be done better, you go ahead and you tell your supervisor, you know, this we could improve this, we could do something and this would be better. And this is what happened. The Austin was something, you know, that the Japanese were contacting the Austin, well, the Japanese people in charge of contacting Austin and sort of thanking them for setting up this situation where they could assemble these cars, and sort of writing a very glowing letter to the Austin management and saying, you know, thank you for allowing us to make this wonderful car, and we hope that at some time we will be able to make a car as well as you do. Nissan were making the Austin, and Isuzu were making the Hillman Minx. So Austin merged later on into British Leyland, well, BMC and then British Leyland, and don't exist anymore. Nissan are still with us. They did have a bit of a rocky spell, but they're now still with us, and they have a big factory in Sunderland in England, and seem to be doing very well there. So the Japanese want to make everything very correct, and they do. Everything counts, the packaging, everything, you know, it all has to be just so. In that way they're rather like the Germans. Okay, that's my story for today. Thank you.